You so much for taking a few minutes here with me to do this live stream. I want to talk to you today about a really important topic. It's quite literally the roadmap to chronic stress and exhaustion that so many of our kids and families are dealing with. Parents, if you are feeling like your family is stuck constantly running on empty, caught in a cycle of stress and exhaustion that just won't let up, if this is you, if you're nodding your head saying this is us, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to talk about why and how to get out of this. Today, we're diving deep into the three progressive stages of what we call subluxation and nervous system dysregulation. This is going to be an important one. This is crucial for every parent to understand, especially if you're juggling a hectic schedule filled with tons of school activities and health appointments, and your life is constantly on overdrive. So first things first, if this is something that you're interested in, you probably know somebody else who is, make sure to share this with them so they can get this information as well. This live stream is going to stay live, but I want to make sure that everyone gets this information who needs it. So today we're going to talk about the roadmap. We're going to talk about why so many kids and so many families are burnt out, worn out, stressed out. Because despite so many families' efforts with diet, exercise, wellness practices, meditation, calm apps, you name it, there is a critical aspect of health that often goes completely unnoticed, and it is our nervous system's health and why it is going downhill in so many kids and families. Because an overstressed and exhausted nervous system leads to what we call subluxation. It is a state of dysregulation and dysfunction that can have profound effects in every aspect of our well-being. And if you've never heard these terms before, we're going to talk about this. What I want to talk about first is this perfect storm concept. And if you've never heard this before, you've probably heard this from us a lot, but it's an important concept that we dive into this perfect storm, because I can tell you as a parent who went down this road, this is everything. We don't know it until we're taught it, but once you know this algorithm, once you know this, you finally get answers that are crucial for you to be able to help your kids and your families. So it's not just adults who face chronic stress and exhaustion. Children are increasingly affected from an incredibly early age due to a mix of chemical, physical, mental, and emotional stressors, traumas, toxins. This perfect storm accelerates their progression through the three stages of subluxation, impacting their health and their development significantly. Because what ends up happening is that the body gets stuck in the state of what's called sympathetic dominance at such an early age that it never gets out. And if you've never heard about sympathetic dominance, the fight or flight system, the parasympathetics, this is the thing. The body's initial response to stress is to enter into the sympathetic or fight or flight state. Ideally, this is a temporary state, but constant stressors keep families and especially children stuck in a state of sympathetic dominance and sympathetic overdrive. This disrupts essential functions like sleep, digestion, immune health, emotional regulation, focus, attention, our ability to organize, our ability to heal the way that we're supposed to, and so many other things. And what most people don't realize is that this happens way earlier than what we realize. Because what we find is there is these common factors in this perfect storm algorithm where there's very early exposure to stress. There is this very early exposure to trauma. There's this very early activation of the fight or flight system. And when we look at this, right, so what you're looking at on the screen is heart rate variability. That little white dot represents where this individual is on their heart rate variability. That green zone is where we all should be, which you see on the right side. That little yellow dot is where we often see most people. It's stuck in fight or flight, losing reserves, brain's been stuck there for a long period of time. The thing of it is that we see this commonly in lots of kids. And when kids are there, it's worse than adults because they should be right smack dab in the center of the green box, but very, very few kids come in this way. Most of them come in with their nervous systems stuck there for long periods of time, and parents saying that your child has symptoms of sensory issues, emotional regulation issues, temper tantrums, meltdowns, focus and attention issues. They're struggling at school academically and so many other things. And this is critical for us to understand because what it leads to ultimately is disorganization and dysregulation. In children, this state significantly impacts neurological development, motor milestones. A disorganized, dysfunctional nervous system affects motor tone and coordination, and it's crucial for brain development in the early years of life. If we're not getting normal, calming, proprioceptive input to the brain, then the nervous system gets stuck in this fight or flight state, and it messes with the brain's ability to go back into normal growth and development. And this is what we see all the time. This is why these data points from these HRVs become so important, because we see that there is this constant ongoing level of stress that so many kids come in with. And I can tell you it's really rare and unusual to see kids actually have a good HRV these days. Because what ends up happening is that the more time they spend there, the nervous system eventually hits a state called neurological exhaustion. It is the root cause behind so many conditions that we see, from metabolic issues like thyroid issues and metabolic syndrome and adrenal fatigue to neurological challenges. And these other things are things you've previously seen in adults and teens, but now you're seeing these things increasingly happen in young adults, teenagers, and you're seeing so many of these things spread across all these age groups. And people are saying, well, what do we do? How do we change this? When a child or an adult hits neurological exhaustion, it all starts with you have to get the brain out of fight or flight. And the key to this ultimately is you've got to activate the parasympathetic nervous system via a nerve called the vagus nerve. Now, if you've never heard this before, if this is new to you, number one, drop it in the comments and let me know. If you want to know more about this, we can make more videos on this. But the vagus nerve is the key to brain function. If the vagus nerve isn't working well, it's going to take the brain off its tracks. It's going to mess with the brain's ability to focus, think, organize, heal. It's going to mess with motor development, social emotional growth and development, and so many factors. Because the vagus nerve activates those pathways within the brain and drives them. Because the vagus nerve is first and foremost an input nerve, which is why input determines output. So when we're looking at these things from a subluxation standpoint, subluxation is input. If we've got noisy, noxious, irritating input to the brain, then it drives the brain to stay in fight or flight and disorganizes the way the brain grows and develops, plain and simple. So now, how do we shift gears to get the brain into healing? Well, this is the way that has to happen. There is a lot of processing the brain has been doing over time, so you've got to stop it. And so the great news is here that for families that we're talking to is that we can stop the cycle of stress and exhaustion once we know what is happening with the brain and the central nervous system. And this is what we do. We get data points, we get information. Because when we do chiropractic care the way that we do, right, where we're neurologically focused, specializing and helping to calm the brain down, then it starts with addressing subluxation and neurological dysfunction. And when we do this, we break the nervous system out of a fight or flight state that has been stuck in for many times years and years and years and years. And then that allows the body to begin to go into a state of reorganization and healing and neuroplasticity and changeability that it's not been able to do before. That's why if you look at things like the testimonials that you see on our site or PX Docs, these are parents who've said, this is what happened to my kid. This is what happened to me. And it's because the nervous system was so locked in this fight or flight state, and all these other things that were tried never broke through that cycle. But when you look at these are parents telling their stories, saying that we got this change because we got this data, and then we did this care plan, and the nervous system changed. My child changed. And it accelerates the brain forward into growth, development, healing, because the nervous system that's stuck in stress isn't very changeable. What it's going to do is going to continue to go downhill and have more and more fight or flight effects over time. When you break the nervous system out of that state, the nervous system begins to focus, think, organize, heal, react better to the stimulus of the world, because that's the way the brain is designed. And it requires data, right? This is a surface EMG scan. These are input scans. They allow us to be able to look at what the brain is receiving from these things called proprioceptors that line the spine and every joint in the body. But here's the thing about the spinal proprioceptors. They're louder. The brain receives more input from the spinal proprioceptors than any other part of the nervous system. And especially as you get up into the neck, those areas are much, much louder because they drive things like where we are in space, and they drive organization of sensory input as it hits the brainstem. So it becomes crucial for us to get this information organized. So as we look at these as a data tool, the better these look over time, the better the brain is processing sensory input from the world around us. This is what's called a thermal scan. So we use a high sensitivity thermal camera to read regulation. A calm nervous system has equal balanced regulation of blood flow to the spinal cord nerve roots. If you look at the left side scan, very disorganized. You look at the color palette on there, right? Those areas in white are the only places in normal. The areas in green are 1 standard deviation above normal, so you can think mild. The areas in blue are 2 standard deviations, moderate. Those areas in red, which there's a lot of them, that's severe. That's extreme stress within the nervous system. That is a very dysregulated nervous system. Now you look at the right side, not perfect, but significantly better. The adjustment effect is a calming of the nervous system. It allows the nervous system to begin to focus, think, organize, heal, refire, rewire, suppress the stress response, and as time progresses, calm the nervous system down. When you look at the HRVs, these give us data about how the nervous system is responding, how well it's handling the stresses that we're exposed to. And this becomes a huge thing because as a tracking tool, we need to see this data that the brain is getting into a better state of variability, better adaptability to stress, because that's the only way that we know the nervous system is staying in the state that we want it to, which is the ability to refire and rewire and change in response to the stimulus of the adjustments or the lasers or brain exercises, anything that's being done to help to improve the function of the brain and the central nervous system. So all of these tools together tell us a story that you cannot get from just doing basic neurological testing, and a story that your child can never tell you. I can tell you firsthand from having gone down this road with my own child that all the neurological tests in the world, all the primitive reflexes in the world never weeded this out. And we were left with answers saying, why aren't we getting better results and better changes? It's because we didn't have enough data, enough information to be able to go and see what we needed to help her. And ultimately, what it came down to, guys, is that once you get the data, then you can put together a plan. And a plan then can be executed with having this information that you can use for tracking. Because we can track over time all of these things by using scans on rinse and repeat. We can track the effectiveness of the care plan and the adjustments and all the things that we're putting in place to help your child or you to be able to calm your nervous system down. And the care plan then is going to be something that we can monitor and track and watch things change. And as we need to adjust over time to what we're doing to make sure we keep things on track. If you want to learn more, scan the screen, hit that QR code that takes you right to our website, and you can get more information about us. You can learn more about what we do and just read. Because ultimately, it comes down to getting the right information, looking through this information that you find at our site or the PX Docs website, which you can get here. And all of these things are just designed to be resources for you parents. Because we know the only way that we can reach the masses and help kids to get the results, the changes they need, is for you to be able to go and do your research, see the data, hear the science, and see other people's testimonials about how this has helped them to help their child. Guys, I hope this was useful for you. If this was, do me a favor, give me a like wherever you're watching this. Also, make sure to subscribe wherever you're watching this or follow us and share this information with somebody else who would find this to be valuable. God bless you guys. Thank you all so much for taking a few minutes